Before we begin, I want you to ask yourself one simple question. What could your life look like if you stopped breaking promises to yourself? Imagine the strength you'd feel waking up each day knowing that you always follow through. Not because it's easy, but because it's who you've chosen to become. I'm not here to tell you that consistency is effortless. I'm here to tell you it's worth everything. Because the truth is, every dream you hold, every ambition you quietly nurture, depends on your ability to keep going, especially on the days you don't feel like it. Tonight, I want you to stay with me until the very last word. Because what I'm about to share isn't just advice. It's a mindset that can transform your habits, your confidence, and ultimately, your entire future. So if you've ever felt frustrated by your own inconsistency, if you've ever started something strong but watched it fade away, then this speech is for you. Let's discover together how to force yourself to be consistent, and why doing so will unlock a strength inside you that even you may not fully see yet. Of course. Here's an 800-word segment, expanding on key point 1. Recognize the power of small daily actions, written in a smooth conversational style as if delivered by Ivanka Trump, without directly mentioning her name, and flowing naturally within the larger speech. You know? Sometimes we look at people we admire, the ones who seem so disciplined, so successful, so completely in control of their lives. And we assume there must be something extraordinary about them. Maybe they were born more focused, more talented, or just more driven than the rest of us. But if you look closely, you'll see that it's rarely about grand gestures or once-in-a-lifetime bursts of motivation. It's about what they do quietly every single day when no one is watching. We often underestimate the power of small daily actions because they feel so ordinary. It doesn't feel revolutionary to wake up on time every day. It doesn't feel life-changing to spend 15 minutes reading or to write down 3 things you're grateful for before bed. But those seemingly insignificant moments, repeated day after day, become the threads that stitch together the life we truly want. Consistency is never about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up for yourself even when it's inconvenient, even when it's dull, even when the voice in your head whispers that missing just this one time won't matter. Because here's the truth. Missing once becomes missing twice, and missing twice becomes forgetting entirely. But the reverse is also true. Choosing to show up even for a short time builds momentum. And that momentum is what carries you forward even when your motivation fades. We live in a world obsessed with results. The highlight reels, the milestones, the big wins. But the process that leads to those moments is often painfully slow and invisible. It's easy to romanticize the outcome and forget the quiet discipline it takes to get there. Yet if you really want to transform your life, you have to fall in love with the process. You have to learn to value each small step, knowing that it's part of something larger than itself. Think about it like this. You wouldn't expect a single workout to change your body overnight. You wouldn't plant a seed and demand a fully grown tree the next morning. Growth takes time, and more importantly, it takes consistency. And each small effort, each workout, each healthy meal, each hour spent learning something new is like adding another drop of water to that seed. Over time, it grows roots. Over time, it becomes something strong enough to weather any storm. What matters most isn't how intensely you start, but how reliably you continue. I've seen so many people begin with overwhelming passion, setting impossible goals and chasing perfection. But the fire burns too hot, too fast, and soon there's nothing left but frustration and regret. True strength is quieter. It's the calm determination to keep going, even when the excitement has long faded, and all that's left is the promise you made to yourself. It helps to remind yourself that consistency isn't about impressing others. It's about proving something to yourself, that your word means something, that you are someone who follows through. Every time you choose to act, even when you could have chosen comfort or distraction, you're telling yourself, I can trust me. And that quiet confidence spills over into every area of your life, your relationships, your work, your sense of self-worth. So start small. If you're trying to write a book, begin by writing a single paragraph each day. If you want to get healthier, commit to drinking more water or taking a 10-minute walk. These steps may sound trivial, but they're not. They're the beginning of a pattern that says, I do what I say I'll do. And the beauty of starting small is that it's sustainable. You're far less likely to burn out and far more likely to keep going. Over time, these daily actions compound. What once felt impossible becomes your new normal. Your confidence grows not because you've achieved some dramatic transformation overnight, but because you've built the quiet certainty that you will keep showing up, no matter what. And that's worth far more than any burst of temporary inspiration. It's not glamorous to set your alarm a bit earlier, to practice patience with your children, to spend a few extra minutes preparing for tomorrow. But those choices are the architecture of a life built on discipline and intention. They are the evidence of your commitment to something greater than your mood in the moment. In the end, the life you want isn't built by what you occasionally do when you feel like it. It's built by what you consistently do, especially when you don't feel like it. That's what separates those who talk about change from those who live it. And that's why small daily actions matter so much more than we often realize. So, as we continue this conversation about consistency, remember this: it's not about chasing perfection or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about choosing over and over again to do the small things that move you closer to your goals. Those choices may not make headlines, they may not feel heroic, but they are quietly and powerfully transforming who you are and what you're capable of becoming. And in the end, that's what makes the journey worth it. It's easy to wait for motivation to strike like lightning before we act. We tell ourselves that once we feel like it, we'll start. But real change rarely begins with a surge of inspiration. More often, it begins with a quiet decision to do what needs to be done, regardless of how we feel in that moment. That's the true power of discipline. It doesn't ask for permission from your mood. It doesn't rely on perfect circumstances or the ideal mindset. It simply demands action, even when your energy is low or your confidence is shaken. When you turn discipline into your default mode, you stop living at the mercy of fleeting feelings. Instead, you build your days around purposeful habits that don't leave room for negotiation. Imagine waking up each morning and knowing that the question isn't whether you'll take the next step toward your goals, but simply when and how. That certainty comes not from being superhuman, but from designing your life to support your values rather than your impulses. Most of us underestimate how much of our lives run on autopilot. We wake up, check our phones, get pulled into distractions, and then wonder why the day slips away without progress. But when discipline becomes your default, you take back control from that autopilot. You replace randomness with rituals that move you forward, even when you're tired or unmotivated. And over time, those rituals become your new normal. It starts with honesty. We all have moments when we'd rather stay comfortable than stretch ourselves. But discipline isn't about denying those feelings. It's about choosing not to be ruled by them. It's about recognizing the voice of resistance and gently, firmly saying, "I hear you, but we're doing this anyway." That single choice, repeated daily, is what separates those who drift through life from those who shape it. Think about how liberating it is to no longer rely on motivation. Motivation is unpredictable. It comes and goes, rising and falling with your mood, your energy, and even the weather outside. But discipline is steady. It shows up when you're excited, and it shows up when you're discouraged. It becomes the quiet strength that keeps you moving when everything else feels heavy. To make discipline your default, create habits that remove choice from the equation. If you want to exercise, lay out your clothes the night before. If you want to read more, keep a book by your bed instead of your phone. If you want to eat healthier, fill your kitchen with foods that support your goals. These small preparations might seem simple, but they reduce friction between your intention and your action. And when you make it easier to do the right thing, you do it more often. Don't wait for the perfect mood or the perfect day. If you only act when you feel inspired, your progress will always be unpredictable. But if you act because it's part of who you are, your progress becomes inevitable. That's the difference between wishing for change and committing to it. And commitment doesn't have to mean huge sacrifices every day. Often it means making small choices that honor your larger vision, choosing to write a single page even when you're tired. Choosing to say no to distractions that promise quick comfort but leave you empty. Choosing to show up, imperfectly but consistently, because the promise you made to yourself matters more than temporary comfort. The beautiful thing is that the more you practice discipline, the less effort it takes to maintain. At first, it feels hard to resist old habits, but over time, new habits take root. You no longer have to convince yourself to act. You simply act because it's part of who you've become. This is why it's so important to choose habits that reflect the person you want to be, not just the results you want to achieve. Results are temporary, but identity lasts. When your habits are built around your deepest values, discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like alignment. You're no longer forcing yourself against your true nature. You're expressing it. And when setbacks come, because they always do, discipline keeps you anchored. You might slow down, but you don't stop. You might stumble, but you don't turn back. Because you've already decided that you'll keep going, even if progress feels slow. That quiet promise to yourself becomes stronger than any passing doubt. The truth is, turning discipline into your default isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing to keep moving again and again, even when the excitement fades. And as you do, you discover a strength that isn't loud or flashy, but quietly powerful. It's the strength to build the life you truly want, not just dream about it. And when you live this way, you don't just change your habits, you change your story. Your days stop being dictated by moods and distractions, and instead become shaped by purpose. And in that quiet consistency, day after day, you find the courage to keep going. No matter what, it's human nature to crave comfort. We all do. We want routines that feel smooth, paths that feel effortless, and days when everything aligns so neatly that progress feels almost automatic. But here's the truth most people never fully accept. Real consistency lives in the moments that feel anything but comfortable. It shows up precisely when the last thing you want to do is keep going, when the work feels heavy, repetitive, or thankless. And it's in those moments, those quiet battles no one else sees, where your character is forged and where your future is decided. Too often, we convince ourselves that discomfort is a sign to stop, that it means we're on the wrong path or pushing ourselves too hard. But discomfort, especially the discomfort of staying consistent, is rarely a warning sign. More often, it's a signal that you're actually growing. It's evidence that you're stepping beyond what feels safe and easy and into the place where real transformation happens. Think of how muscles are built. You don't get stronger by lifting a weight that feels effortless. Growth only happens when you challenge those muscles, when they tremble under pressure, and when you keep pushing through that burn for just a little longer. It's the same with your mind, your habits, and your sense of discipline. Without discomfort, you simply stay the same. It's the struggle itself that makes you stronger, more focused, and more resilient. Most people don't quit because they lack ability or desire. They quit because they expect it to feel easy all the time. When it stops feeling easy, they think something's wrong. But if you embrace the truth that consistency will often feel boring, inconvenient, or downright hard, you free yourself from that illusion. You stop searching for constant excitement and start respecting the process, even when it tests your patience. There will be mornings when your bed feels warmer than your ambitions. Evenings when your mind begs for distraction instead of discipline. Days when your efforts feel invisible and unrewarded. But it's precisely on those days that showing up matters most. Because it's not just about what you accomplish externally. It's about the internal message you send yourself every time you refuse to break your promise. When you push through resistance, you build evidence in your own mind. Proof that you can rely on yourself, even when things aren't perfect. Over time, that self-trust becomes unshakable. And it doesn't just change your habits, it changes how you see yourself. You stop being someone who tries, you become someone who persists. The discomfort of consistency also teaches humility. It reminds us that growth isn't linear. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Other days, every step will feel like a battle. But consistency isn't measured by how you feel. It's measured by what you do despite how you feel. And that mindset valuing effort over ease builds a quiet kind of confidence that no setback can take away. Discomfort can also reveal what truly matters to you. When it becomes tempting to quit, ask yourself why you started in the first place. Was it to impress others? Or was it because deep down, you wanted to become someone you could respect, someone who doesn't run at the first sign of struggle? Remembering your deeper why gives discomfort a purpose. Instead of something to avoid, it becomes something to honor, because it shows you're on a path worth fighting for. And yes, there will be times when you slip, Days when your best intentions lose to fatigue or distraction. But even then, the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to return. To not let one missed step turn into a permanent retreat. Consistency isn't broken by falling. It's broken by deciding not to get back up. Each time you resume, you prove to yourself that setbacks aren't the end. They're just part of the journey. It's important, too, to see discomfort for what it really is, a teacher. It exposes the parts of your routine that need strengthening, the habits that still need reinforcing, and the stories you tell yourself when things get hard. Do you say, I can't do this? Or do you say this is hard, but I'll keep going anyway? That difference in language and mindset can change everything. And slowly, almost without noticing, what once felt impossible becomes normal. The actions that required every ounce of willpower start to feel natural. The resistance never fully disappears, but it loses its power over you. Because you've built evidence day after day that you can act despite discomfort. And in doing so, you become someone who doesn't merely hope for change. You become someone who creates it. So don't see discomfort as a barrier that keeps you from being consistent. See it as the very proof that you are being consistent. See it as a sign that you're not just chasing a dream. You're earning it, moment by moment, choice by choice. Because it's in those quiet, uncomfortable moments, when quitting feels easier than continuing, that you write the part of your story that truly matters. And when you look back, you'll realize that the struggle wasn't something to fear. It was the very thing that made you unbreakable. One of the most common reasons people abandon their journey toward consistency is because they fall into the trap of perfection. They convince themselves that unless every single day is flawless, unless every effort feels powerful and every step looks impressive, then it doesn't count. But the truth is, consistency isn't built on perfect days. It's built on imperfect ones. And the real art is learning to celebrate progress instead of obsessing over perfection, because it's progress, however small, that shapes who you become. Perfection will always feel out of reach because it's not real. It's an illusion we chase, often because we're afraid of what it might mean if we're less than perfect. Maybe it would confirm our deepest fears, that we're not good enough, that we'll never get there, that our dreams are foolish, but striving for perfection only leaves us exhausted and disappointed. Well, it's progress that's honest. It's real. It's messy, sometimes slow, and often invisible to everyone but you.
But it's the truest sign that you're still in the fight.
Think about how powerful it is to wake up and tell yourself, today doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be better than yesterday. That mindset frees you from the heavy burden of constant self-judgment. It allows you to see growth as a journey rather than a series of flawless victories, and it keeps you moving forward, even when yesterday felt like a step backward. What really matters isn't whether every attempt is perfect, but whether you return after falling short, because falling short is part of being human. Everyone misses a day, struggles to stay focused, or loses motivation. What separates those who succeed from those who stop trying isn't some magical gift. It's the willingness to keep going, even after setbacks. To see those moments not as proof of failure, but as opportunities to learn, adjust, and grow stronger. When you begin to look for progress instead of perfection, you'll notice it everywhere. It might be in the way you recover faster after a bad day, or the way you catch yourself before making an old mistake. It could be in the extra 5 minutes you spend working toward your goal, or in the patience you show yourself when things don't go as planned. These small signs often go unnoticed, but they matter deeply because they reveal the quiet evolution happening inside you. It's also important to remember that progress isn't always something others will see or praise. Most of it happens in silence, in private moments when you choose to keep your promise to yourself. The world might never applaud you for those choices, but you will feel the difference in your heart. You'll feel it in your confidence, your sense of self-respect, and your belief in your own resilience. We often think the finish line is what will change us, but it's the process that truly transforms us. It's every moment you choose discipline over comfort, every time you show up when it would have been easier to walk away. Those are the moments that build your character, shape your mindset, and remind you that your commitment is stronger than your doubt. And even as you celebrate progress, give yourself grace. There will be days when your best effort doesn't look impressive. There will be moments when you feel tired, distracted, or discouraged, but showing up on those days still counts. In fact, it often counts more, because it means you acted from discipline, not just desire. Progress can be quiet and invisible, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. It's in the gradual shift from "Edis I have to do this" is who I am now. It's in the moments when the choice to stay consistent feels less like a struggle and more like a natural extension of your values. And sometimes the most meaningful progress isn't about external achievement at all. It's about how you think, how you speak to yourself, and how you choose to rise after falling. By focusing on progress, you also keep the journey sustainable. Perfection leads to burnout because it's an impossible standard. But progress is always possible, even in the smallest of ways. And over time, those small improvements add up to something extraordinary. They become the foundation of trust you build with yourself, a trust that says, no matter what happens, I'll keep going. So measure your journey by your willingness to continue, by your courage to face discomfort and your grace to forgive yourself when you fall short. By your ability to notice the small wins and remind yourself that they matter. Because they do. They matter far more than the flawless days you imagine but never really live. In the end, the goal isn't to live perfectly consistent days. It's to live as someone who keeps coming back again and again because the dream matters and because you matter. And that, more than any perfect moment, is what will shape the life you truly want.